But first, a subject that's very close to my heart and one that doesn't get talked about enough in the media, especially on television, and that is how do you help a child deal with grief? Now, many children, their first experience of death will be the loss of their hamster or their guinea pig. And from past phone-ins, I know that many of you waver as to whether you tell them the truth or you cover up the loss by buying a new one. For others, it may be the passing of an aged grandparent that might come first. But 24,000 children every year will lose one of their parents. A similar-ish number will lose a sibling. 1 in 16 will lose a close friend. Now, experts will tell you that children grieve just like adults, which means their feelings will manifest in many, many different ways. And, of course, age is going to have a role to play in how they respond too. Children under 4, I'm told, can barely comprehend death, though some primary schools, as we just heard there, are encouraging even the youngest pupils to talk about it. They say a proper understanding comes around the age of 6 to 11. And as youngsters often struggle to put their feelings into words, you'll often find it's their behaviour that changes. They may become anxious or even very well behaved, actually, conversely, that due to misplaced feelings of guilt. Teenagers, they may become withdrawn, more withdrawn, or start acting up. And as children are likely to learn grieving from copying grown-ups, grown-ups trying to be strong for the children may do them more harm than good. Is a sudden death of a parent harder for them to deal with than a more protracted departure? Many mums and dads who have time to prepare will create things like memory boxes, chock full of stuff about themselves, so their children will have something to keep memories alive and stimulate new ones, perhaps. Now, with us today, we've got some very special people. We've got Benjamin Brooks-Dutton. Now, he had to help his two-year-old son Jackson over the sudden death of mum Desireen, and has written a very, very important book about it, which I can't recommend enough. Maybe you could tell us a little bit about what happened. We'd spent the day with friends at their home in London on the 10th of November 2012, and as we left to make our way to the train station, I took the pushchair. Desireen was a couple of steps behind me, and our car came on the corner, mounted the pavement, and narrowly missed us, but struck and killed her on the scene. So, what do you say to a 2-year-old about something like that? This is way out of my realm. Yeah, I mean, immediately, I had no idea. Nothing like this had ever happened to me before. I'd never lost a parent. I didn't know anyone that had been widowed as young as me with a child, so I really didn't have anywhere to turn, and I kind of had to make it up as I went along. I got the grace of some time because my child didn't really notice that his mum had gone for a couple of weeks, 2 or 3 weeks. Not really, because the house was so full of other people, so I had time to talk to organisations like Grief Encounter and Winston's Wish and take some advice, but I knew immediately that I needed to tell the truth because I had one chance to get the story straight, and I couldn't just change it on his 4th birthday or on his 16th birthday to tell him what had really happened. So I told him the truth about what had happened. OK. Now, I know that these guys have questions. Yasmin?
Your little boy was very young, wasn't he? He was, what, 2-ish?
Just 2.
Two-ish.
Just 2.
So how did you get him to understand? Did he understand?
I don't think I did immediately. I didn't.
Because you were shocked as well.
Well, I mean, I didn't understand. Who does when, so soon? I knew that he wasn't going to understand the concept of death. I knew that because I'd taken advice on it. And but I knew that I had to be very black and white about the fact that Mummy had gone away and she couldn't ever come back. And I had to let him know that she didn't choose to do that, that he hadn't in any way been abandoned. So I just told him pretty much, those words and said that I was there to look after him now, and I knew how because Mummy had taught me. And then told everyone the exact words that I'd used and told them to say those as well. He could repeat them immediately. Whether or not he understood them then is another thing. He's starting to understand death now. I've not hidden it from him. It sounds ridiculous, but
it's still very early days even for you.
It is, yeah, it is, but I was never afraid to talk to him about death, because someone said to me, well, he won't understand it, and I said, well, he doesn't know what an aubergine is, but I'm not afraid to tell him. And it seems like a silly thing to say, but no, I just thought, he's going to be more exposed to death than most of his friends at school, so why not let him educate them about it as well, especially if it's not going to be spoken about in schools by the teachers.
That really chimes with me, because I lost a friend very young, and then when my sister lost her boy, I did the eulogy, and I could actually talk to the young people there and tell them what it's like, and it actually becomes not a life wasted, but there's some purpose. Did you, because Desireen was taken so suddenly, that she would have had no chance to prepare, have you tried, or provided a memory box or pulled stuff together?
In so many ways. I mean, I've gone about it obsessively in a way. I've written a book about, you know, our life since, but it's about our life before as well. There's lots of happy memories in there. It's a gift to my son as well, really, so that he can get to know his mum better when he's older. I've written a song. I've put more pictures up on the wall than we had before. I've had lots of help.
The title of it is It's Not Raining Daddy, It's Happy. Where did that come from?
It's a direct quote from Jackson.
So why did he come out with a line like that?
Well, he, when it's sunny outside, he says it's happy. He never says it's sunny, he says it's happy. So I picked him up from nursery one day. I'd had a really bad day at work, and I said to him, you know, we need to leave, and you need to put your coat on because it's pouring down with rain outside. And he looked at me and laughed. He said, it's not raining, Daddy, it's happy. And it just really chimed with me at the time, because I thought, although I was going through so much pain and still am, I realised that when you've got a happy, you know, mostly happy, healthy toddler around that lives in the moment and says ridiculous, funny things all the time, it's hard not to have moments of happiness as well.
Do you think, I mean, does he understand now, 18 months down the line?
He's getting there. I think his understanding is growing. He's talking about death now. I've taught him how to. I've taught him to what the concept is by showing him one insect that's alive and one's dead, and talked to him about the difference and shown that that's what happened to Mummy as well. But suddenly there's anger back as well. It went for a while, but there's a lot of anger there now.
I can understand that.
But how do you cope with your own grief and then your... Sorry. How do you cope with your own grief and your child's grief at the same time?
It's very hard. It's very hard.
Do you have to make an effort not to be strong for him?
That stopped for me after 3 weeks. The first 3 weeks I was congratulated on my steel. I was told how brave I was, how strong I was, and I thought, and people actually said, be strong, carry on being strong, and I thought, I'm being told what to do, I have to, this is how you grieve. I'd never been through it before. And then the day after the funeral, I woke up and I was getting texts, you know, congratulating me on my eulogy and stuff, and I thought, I'm living a lie now. This isn't real, this isn't me, and I'm not this sort of person, and I started to really hate myself, and I thought, actually, I'm entitled to be weak if I want to be. I'm entitled to be vulnerable, and I'm entitled to be honest about how I feel, and that's what made the difference. When I was honest with people about how I really did feel, and when I opened up and said, you can help me by supporting me however I feel, and not just telling me to be strong, that made all the difference for me.
Okay, well, let's say from you, Ben.
When do you think children should learn about death?
I think that we shouldn't feel uncomfortable about talking to them about it at any age. I know that people that haven't been through something like this will probably find that quite challenging to get their heads around, but the moment something like this happens, you're forced into it then. And I've been forced to tell my child, to teach my child about death, and actually I think I want his schoolmates to know that when he starts school when he's 4. I don't want them to be sheltered from it, and I don't want parents to feel that they can't tell their children, or teachers. Like from my generation, I had an old teacher get in touch with me the other day and said that when I was a boy at school, another teacher told them not to talk to the child who'd lost his mother, not to talk about the mother, as if he couldn't be in any more pain, and what he needed was support through that. And that's what my little boy needs when he starts school. He needs understanding, and if we shy away from the issues, he's never going to have that.
One of the people that gave Ben support is with us this morning, and that's Shelley Gilbert from the child bereavement charity Grief Encounter.
Morning.
And I know a little bit about your story, but if you could share it with the people at home, why did you set up Grief Encounter, which is a fantastic title, by the way. I have to say, it's a fantastic website too. So what's your story?
My parents died when I was 4. My brother had, my mother had breast cancer, and I wasn't actually told. I'd never actually even heard the words, your mum has died. Those words that explode in your head and that you can't manage as a 2-year-old, as a 4-year-old, as a 6-year-old. And then, unfortunately, my father later died when I was 9. And I was
my word. So both parents had gone before you were 10?
Mm-hmm.
So who brought you up?
I was adopted by my aunt and uncle, my blood aunt, my father's sister. So I actually, perversely, had a very happy childhood. But what wasn't recognised was the dark side. And that's why I set up Grief Encounter. I wanted to make it different for today's bereaved children, exactly as Ben was explaining. Now,
I'm going to take a leap in the dark here because I'm not entirely sure what we've got to show the people at home, but going through the website, if we stripped it down to the bare bones, you've got a bit for very young children and a section for slightly older for teenagers. Tell us, for starters, for very young children, what does the site offer, and how should parents deal with grief with those, say, in single digits?
Our premise is to be open and honest. I grew up in a conspiracy of silence and a dance of complicity because the people around wanted to protect me from the pain. What you as adults...
So they're acting in the best interest, they just did it wrong.
Got it wrong. Death's so full of paradoxes, it's full of confusions, and the main message is it doesn't go away overnight, and I think that...
Do you think it goes away at all, or you just get used to living with it?
We replace the word acceptance with the word adjustment. Why should you ever, ever in a million years accept the word accept? And I wrote a book, Grief Encounter, and said all this sort of stuff, and gave it out to some of my psycho-babble mates, my psychotherapist mates, and I thought they'd say, well, actually, I think you should go back into therapy, Shelley. There's something wrong. You know, you haven't got over the death of your parents. And actually, what's happened was an enormous public reaction from the psychotherapeutic community I worked in, the children I was working with, and the parents, to say, actually, you know, that's so right. Thank you for that. Thank you for giving us permission to grieve Desreen, or Kevin Wells, our patron, grieving for Holly for the rest of his life. And it's not about being obsessed, and it's not about our society judging us. Well, perhaps we should move on, perhaps we should get remarried, perhaps we should stop putting pictures up on the wall.
Are those parents, and I've encountered them before in phone-ins in the show, and they're as well-meaning as anybody else, but are those parents who shy away from dealing with grief, not necessarily as close as Ben's, you know, where you lose a wife and mother, but a hamster, say, are they letting their children down by avoiding...
We are doing a complete disservice, and I think we need a better understanding of what happens when children and young people and adults grieve. And what happens is the initial trauma makes us split our thoughts, feelings and behaviours. And what happens is we're really good at dealing with, you know, cups of tea and the chicken soup and the friends after the trauma, what's happened, we get the details. We ask the kids then we stop. And I think if we look at the language we use when we say, well, we'll tell the children what Ben's been doing, and what we advocate is we ask the children. Then when we ask the children, we listen to them, and that's the key.
OK, well, let's do some listening after the break when we take your calls. If you'd like to tell us how you've helped a child deal with grief, or you want information, 0207 173 5555 is the number. As I said, if you want to work with either Ben or Shelley, do feel free to ask, I think, anything at all, yeah? Yeah, great. See you after a few more.